pain. All right, we're going to hop in. We are doing our tech training today. It's Thursday, so we have tech training, and we are going to jump into Zip Forms, kind of show you around Zip Forms, how to navigate it, how to set up templates, how to set up the free, how to use the free e-signatures program in there. You can also link DocuSign in there, but DocuSign costs some money, so we always try to show you the free option. To get into Zip Forms, in case you've never been in there, well, I think most of the people on the screen maybe have been in there, you're going to go to car.org, and then I go secure transactions. I could probably save this as a link on my toolbar, but that would be way too easy. So this is, I like the 50 click option. So you go transactions. You're looking for this Lone Wolf transaction, Zip Form edition. That's what you're looking for. You're going to click it. If you're not logged in, it's going to ask you to log in to your car account. So anytime, just so everybody knows, anytime you're trying to link Zip Forms to anything else, link it to, I don't even know what you link it to anymore. Maybe you need to link it to Homelight Listing Management, or maybe a DocuSign account or whatever, just so anybody knows. You always have to go to the Association of Realtors login. So it's not a car, or it's not a Zip Forms login, it's your California Association of Realtors login. So they usually give you that option. So if you have problems connecting it to other things, that is probably the issue that you're having. So just a little heads up on that. It will open it up in a new screen. So if you have your pop-up blockers on, you may also run into issues getting into Zip Forms when you're trying to log in. So we logged in. I'm sorry, I kind of jumped there as I was talking, but let's just come back here. We'll go back to the home page. I'll just show you again, because so I hit this button, right? And then we went to the login to Zip Forms. And then I did this, the login page, and then it gave me this where it validates your membership, and then it pops up a little yellow button. That's where I got to the actual Zip Forms, is by clicking that. That's when it popped up the extra window. So if you have your pop-up blocker on, you do need to turn that off, or always allow pop-ups from this website so that you won't ever have problems logging in again. Okay. Your Zip Forms account is here. It might open you up to random pages wherever you have it set to open it up to. Mine always comes to transactions, which is the only reason I use Zip Forms. I don't worry about dashboard. I'm not worried about logging into my templates every time. Task, I don't use it for tasks or contacts or tracking or anything like that. I use OneSuite for all of my contacts and task options. And then, you know, of course, we do all of our compliance inside of SkySlope. So you probably want to come up here at some point and go to the Me button in the upper right-hand corner. And you probably want to go to your profile and settings. And you probably want to spend a few minutes just checking that out to make sure everything up in there is accurate. Your license number, the email address, the phone number. You can click the little down arrow here for e-signature, and you can put in a signature here as well. So that's the About Me. Every time you make any changes, make sure you click Save. You've got your sign in and security. This is where you can change your username, turn on two-factor authentication, where you'd enter either a mobile number or an email where it would authenticate you. Your office information, forms, libraries, any products that you have, settings. So you probably just, like I said, want to spend some time going through there. These are your different e-signature options. So it's probably going to default you to AuthentiSign. Make sure you select your time zone. If you have DocuSign, this is where you'd go in and set it as your default. Okay. This is where, remember I said when you log in, it may put you on one of those other tabs. This is where you select that default landing page. So mine always takes me to my transaction list, which is what I come in here to use Zip Forms for. And then you can do your timeout. Oh, I think, Adriana, I think you were having problems with this on your timeout. You can change how many minutes before it times out right here in this settings under profile and settings, and then go to the settings page. Magic.
I'm gonna do that right now because it logs me out every time.
Yes, it logs you out quickly. Here's if you've got other sign-on links that are connected, like DocuSign or Glide. That's where you would use that California Association of Realtors login for those. It tells you what's connected there. So just spend some time going through here and making sure all of your settings are up to date. Oops, cancel. We're going to hit save. Make sure you save. If you don't save, it tells you that you need to save. Notifications and settings. If you want any notifications, that's going to go here. I don't set this for any notifications, so I can just turn them all off. Really doesn't matter. And then there's some other random things that I don't use down there. Oops, again, make sure you hit save. All right. If you were going to have a transaction management transaction coordinator, you can invite them here. You may need to upgrade for that. I'm not exactly sure. Let's just hit, there we go. So you'd have to get a premium for that. You can get Elite Agent and get Zip Forms transaction coordinator for $0. So that's probably a pretty good spend if you have a transaction coordinator, $0, free 99. To add that where your transaction coordinator would have access to your files. Okay, any questions about those settings? Nothing super difficult or complicated about those. And as we proceed forward with this training, as always, if you have any questions, feel free just to interrupt me and ask your question. Let me know you have a question. I am watching the chat box off and on, so I will stay in and keep an eye on that as well. So I'm going to go back to actually, we're going to go to templates next. So templates are a good thing to set up once you get familiar with the residential purchase agreement, your listing agreements, those type of forms. You can set up templates in here, which will auto-populate information into those forms. So when I open up like a regular single-family residential purchase agreement, it auto-populates some of my default choices into that form. Makes it super handy, super easy, puts my information in there, make sure my license number's in there, make sure the brokerage is in there, their license number. So it does all those things for me. To create a new template, once you're ready to do that, you just come into the little templates tab on the dark blue navigation bar, hit templates, and you would hit new. And then you would choose, are we setting up a template for a listing, purchase, lease listing? So if we were setting up a new purchase, and you could have as many templates as you want. So you may want like a template for a single family residence purchase. You could have a template for a condo purchase, template for a mobile home purchase, maybe a template for, who knows, a country property, because things on the country, you select different options, or maybe you do business in different counties. And so you want those defaults set up for like title and escrow fees and stuff different. So you could have like Vacaville single family residence purchase, right? So you could set it up different. So we're just going to go test template. I'm going to choose residential here. And then here on the auto apply, so we would choose what kind of property this is going to apply to. And then Ed says he's willing to sit with people to help develop templates if that helps with your business. You can auto apply. So this template, you can either select it to not auto apply the template to new transactions. You can set it to automatically apply this template to new purchase residential transactions, or automatically apply this template to all new transactions. So if you're drawing up a purchase agreement, you may want it to automatically apply to new purchase or residential new transactions. I'm going to hit do not automatically apply. And then you can choose what kind of template this is. Is this a single family residence template, right? So you would select, I'm just going to save it under my templates and hit save. Now it's going to create that new template, and it's going to take me to a place where I can add forms to it and I can modify it. So here I would go click on that all forms button in the upper right-hand corner. And I want to add that residential purchase agreement. In addition to the residential purchase agreement with all my offers, I submit the MCA form, which is the market conditions advisory, because I want to make sure my buyers are aware of the market being cyclical, and that ultimately it's their decision what they decide to offer for the property before we submit that offer. And I also include the SBSA, which is the statewide buyer and seller advisory, because I want to make them aware of their responsibilities, my responsibilities, and the seller's responsibilities as part of the transaction, and the 73 different ways they can have the property investigated. Okay, so those are kind of my forms I like set up in my purchase templates. And then you can go in there and you can edit the forms. Now we have a new option when you go in there to edit forms. You've got the Forms Editor Classic for those that don't like change. And then we have the new form editor. Okay, the new forms editor is actually really cool. So if you haven't messed with that, use that one. If you're new to the business, don't ever click on that classic one. Just click on the new one. I promise you'll like it. We're going to open it up. And any changes to these forms is going to be on the whole template. So we don't want to put in things like buyers' names and sellers' names. We don't want to put in property addresses. We just want stuff that would auto-populate on any transaction. So on this market conditions advisory, there wouldn't be anything that we would input into this form in order to have on our template. We just want this form inputted into all of our purchase transactions. We could do the same thing. So the nice thing, here's the nice thing about the new forms editor. The old one, I would open up a form and then you'd have to close back and go back to the transaction, open up the next form to edit it, go back to the transaction. Here I opened the market conditions advisory. I'm like, man, I really want to edit the statewide buyer and seller advisory. So that form's already in this file. So all I have to do is grab it over here on the dots. Not very good at grabbing things. Hold on. It usually takes me 2 hands. Oh, it made it, because I double clicked. All right. And I just drag it up into the editing square up here, the workspace, which allows me to edit that form. And I can go ahead and pull up. We're going to do this the right way because I already double clicked on it. Hold on. Why? Told you I'm not very good at this. All right, there we go. Okay, so now I can edit all of these forms at once. And if I forgot to add a form to a transaction, you can add more forms as well. So it's super handy that way. But if I click on, I can either scroll down past the market condition advisory, which will automatically take me to the next form, or I can click on that form and it'll also take me there as well. So there's a couple different ways to navigate what we call a workspace. Okay, statewide buyer and seller advisory. Nothing gets inputted on this form until the last page, and it's like 14 pages. I just skipped it. Hold on. Possible representation. It scrolled really fast. So on this form, I probably want to make sure my information is put in here. So I'm going to be representing the buyer. So I would want the Realty One Group Fox in there. I'd want to make sure their license number's in there. Ed, what's our license number?
0200187.
And now I never have to know that license number for this form ever again. Anytime I pull up this template, this will already be in there. And then I'm also going to put in my information. And my license number so that it's in there and saved. That's everything I'm going to put in there. Now, if I normally do business in Solano County, I might want the Solano County disclosures and disclaimers advisory there in the local advisories and disclosures so that it's identified that that's part of this transaction. If I put that there, it's going to show up every time I pull up this template. Any questions so far about setting up the template?
How do we remove like an old office number or an old, so,
I'll show you that here in just a moment.
okay, thank you.
In fact, we're going to go like, okay. Next, it takes me into the residential purchase agreement. Once you put in your information there, it's saved. Like I would check buyer's boxes here so I don't ever have to check those boxes again. I'm not going to go through the whole setup on the residential purchase agreement, but just know you can do it. Once you're done making your changes, we're going to hit save. Okay, and it's going to say save successful. And then we can hit the back button, which will take us back to that template folder. Here we go. All right. So it took me back to test template. It took me back. I've got this all set up. So once you're done there, you can just scooch back out. And now, oops, let's go back to templates. That template will always have that information. I'll show you how you would apply it to a transaction here in just a minute. But let's say that we made some template adjustments, and then we inputted our template, and then there were some changes, or we changed brokerages, or whatever it might be that we need to update some information. Maybe you got married, you need to change your last name on these forms. You can just easily go back in, come to the templates tab. I can come over to this other template that I already have set up. I can just click on it. It'll open up that template. And now if I click on any of these documents, we're going to click on the statewide buyer and seller advisory. Again, I'm going to open it in that new form editor. This allows you to go back in, and we're just going to start a new workspace. I can scroll now through these forms and make any updates that I want to make to them on this template. Oh, this one's already been updated, so it's already in there. Once you make those changes, right? Maybe we'll add, just for kicks, an M in here, right? Then you can hit save. And now you've updated that template with the new information. So as soon as you hit save, it's been updated. And if you have that template set to auto populate into new transactions, that's going to be the one that auto populates with those changes. Again, once we're done making changes and we hit save, we just go back. Over date for, what do you mean, Ed? Elaborate, please.
I'm just talking about the, like, for instance, CAR forms, when they go to, they do an update on the forms, and it's not auto-populated on your phone.
Yes, absolutely. I'll cover that here in just a second. All right, so we updated that template. This takes us back to those template lists. So now we have them in there. If some template ever becomes obsolete, we can just go in there, click this little box, and we should be able to, oops, that just changes that. Oh, I just clicked, I looked too hard. I clicked the little box and hit delete. And now, just so you know, when you go to delete something and you have to type in delete to delete it, you do have to type it in as capitalized letters. Okay. Now, let's say that one of our forms was updated, like the purchase agreement. They usually update our forms in the car library twice a year. It usually happens in June and December. They make updates to the form. And sometimes in our templates, those forms aren't updated. So let's say that we wanted to go into this single family residential purchase template because there was a form that was updated. It looks like it updated for me. It always tells you on here, if you look on the screen, it tells you what the last update was on this. So if we look on the statewide buyer and seller advisory, they updated it on 6/22. Market conditions advisory says 12/21, so that's December of 21. Residential purchase agreement was 12 of 22. That means we have the most recent version in this file. Okay, so that's how you tell. And if you open the documents, not only does it show you on the name what version it is, but it also shows you at the very top of the document like here, it'll show you revised 6/22. Okay, so you can see it on the top of each form underneath the name, and that you can also see it in the title of the form to make sure you have the most recent copy. Okay, and depending on what updates were made, you may need to update your template. Okay, any questions about that so far?
No, ma'am.
Fabulous. All right, so now I'll show you, we've got this template saved, and now you're like, how do I actually use that, Amy? What we're gonna do is we are gonna go back to the list. It takes me back to my default transactions. I think I need to change my setting on that because I think that's a new setting. Should have taken me back to the templates, but I was going to come back here anyway. So I would go to transactions, and let's say I have a new purchase transaction. I'm getting ready to write a new offer. I'm going to hit this little new button right here with the little plus on the little, it's kind of like an off-white toolbar. It's going to ask me, do I want to purchase, a listing, lease, right? Same questions I got asked before. I'm saying, oh man, I get to write an offer. It's a new purchase offer. Here, we're going to name the offer. You can name your offers whatever you want to. I usually name my purchase offers with like a last name and then purchase. Because mine usually aren't property specific necessarily. And if it was a listing, I normally name it like the property address of what I'm listing. To drag in, if the property that you're writing an offer on is in your primary MLS. So for most of us, that would be Barry's. Okay, it doesn't work as well for like Metro List listings and such. You can MLS connect that listing to your offer, which means that if I click MLS connect, it's going to pull up a new window. It's going to ask for my login information. And then you can put in the MLS ID right here. Can anybody tell me an MLS ID for a listing that's currently on the MLS someplace? Anybody have Barry's pulled up?
410
410
172 97.
All right. You plug in the MLS number right there. Again, this only works if your primary MLS is Barry's. It only works in those listings that were listed into the Barry's system in the primary counties. Keep in mind that if another agent from like Sacramento that's a member of Metro List inputted their listing into here and it's actually got a Metro List number on it, it may not pull it. So just a heads up on that. If you have problems pulling it, it's probably because it was inputted into Metro List Plus instead of Barry's Plus. We're going to click the little include property photo because that helps us make sure that we've identified the right photo, and we're going to hit find. Here it pulls up the address, listing ID, listing price, and a picture of it. And you're like, yay, that's the right one. We're going to click use listing. What that does is that's going to pull over all the listing agent's information, all of the property information right into your purchase agreement. Super handy. Okay. Here it's already got the property address. Here we can click it's a residential property. The status is active. And then here's where you can choose your templates down here. So we can just select from the drop down which template you want to use for this property. So it's a single family residence regular purchase is how I have mine listed. It also, that one was automatically applied. So it tells me which one was automatically applied right here as well. So if you've got one set to apply automatically, this is where it would show up. And then you can change it up here on the drop down. Everybody see how I did that? Yes. All right. Then you hit save. Now what it should do is it should open up that file. Because I have it set up on my template, it's going to automatically put in any of the files that I have set up on that template. So I've got that market conditions advisory, the statewide buyer and seller, the residential purchase, the wildfire disaster advisory, and my additional agent acknowledgement. Okay, super cool. Now, if I go into the residential purchase agreement, open a new forms editor. And then scroll down, after it finishes loading, you'll see here that my buyer boxes are already checked. My information's already inputted into this form. All I have to do is put in the buyer's names. Super handy. As I scroll through this form, let me get to the residential purchase agreement where there's actually here, it's pulled in because I did the MLS Connect. It's pulled in the data from the other real estate company. I am missing the license number for the brokerage. Chances are oftentimes when you're missing the license number for the brokerage, it's usually the same license number as the agent, but I would want to go back to Barry's or to the MLS and double check and make sure I input their license number there. It's already got the address in here for me because I did that MLS Connect. So it's all set up and ready to go. And then whatever I have as my defaults here in the grid set up in this template, it auto populates. So like mine auto populates a 30-day close of escrow. It auto-populates, buyer gets to choose the type of deposit. It auto-populates my final verification of property condition, any assignment requests. So anything that I had set up in that template, it pulls straight into this file. So I have less work to do when writing up offers. Okay, does everybody see how that works? Magic. It's magic. It's like witchcraft. All right. So you can pull in the property information with the MLS Connect, and you can pull in your information and your defaults with those templates. Okay. We kind of went through how to navigate that forms, how we fill in our forms. I showed you how to add forms in. Here in this screen, if we want to add forms to this transaction, super easy. We just I come up to all forms, click on the box. It opens up this where you can search from forms either by name, by partial name, or by the acronym. So I could either, if I was looking for a statewide buyer and seller advisory, I could plug in statewide there. If it's highlighted blue, that means it's already in your transaction. It's already part of that transaction. If it's not blue, then if you double click it, it will add it to your transaction. I could have also searched that with SBSA. So you don't have to memorize all the acronyms. You can just take a guess at what that form might be called and do a little search. Oftentimes I'm like buyer, because I can never remember what the buyer broker agreement's called. And now it's even been changed again. So I'll probably never remember it, but so I'd search buyer and then scroll down and be like, oh, it's the buyer representation and broker compensation agreement, right? So you can search by keyword as well, as long as it shows up in the name. Any questions about how to add it? Again, we would just double click and then it'll highlight it blue so you know it's in there. Any questions about how we did that?
No, ma'am.
Fabulous. Mine is set up in a list format. Yours might look like a grid over here on the right-hand side. If I click these 4 little squares, then it'll pull my forms in on grid view, or now I can toggle back to the list view. I think the list view honestly is a little easier to navigate. And the nice thing about the list view is that it added my new form at the bottom. So anytime I add something new to this transaction, it's going to add it to the bottom of my list. Makes it super easy to locate items. Okay. I was trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, you know what you can do here too is you can add outside documents, right? We talked about like the Solano County Disclosures and Disclaimers Advisory. So if I wanted to add that to this transaction, so it was one of these forms, I could just come up here and hit add document. And now here I can browse my computer, Dropbox, Google Drive, add form, create placeholder for that form. So if I hit browse, now I can go to like my downloads and search this disclaimer. Once you find it, obviously I didn't put enough words in there. CLAIMER. All right, well, we don't really care. So we're just going to take it and say, this is that form. I'm going to double click on it. It's going to say, hey, do you want to change the name of it? And what's the description? You don't have to put in any of those. You don't have to change the name as long as you can see the name. But we're going to change it to, just for kicks, the Solano County Disclosure. And then we're going to hit OK. So that's how you would add PDFs to your zip form transaction. So let's say that, you were filling out this offer and the agent had provided copies of the disclosures ahead of time to review, and you were trying to be really diligent in your efforts and you wanted to make sure you sent those over with the offer so that they knew the buyer had reviewed those, or the cover page for like a home light listing management. You could upload it in here and then I'll show you, we can include it as part of our signing file. Okay, so that's, you can add any sort of PDFs to this file to help aid in getting things sent out for signatures. Again, some people use this for compliance. We use SkySlope, so there's no sense in uploading all the documents into zip forms if you don't need them signed. And if you have a transaction coordinator, they'll make sure to send out all those extra things for signatures, and you don't have to do it. Okay. Fabulous. All right. So now if we want to send, let's add parties to our transaction. I probably should have done this before I started editing the documents. So this is the summary of the transaction here. On the gray toolbar, you have different things you can toggle between. This is the summary. Okay. It just highlights everything. So if it ever pulled over incorrect information, you could update it here and it would update the entire file. The next little tabby is parties. This is where you could put in your buyer's information. So if if I wanted to input buyer 1, I just click over here on buyer 1. It's going to pop up a new screen, buyer 1, and then I recommend putting in their email address, buyer1@email.com, because this is where it's going to pull the email address for electronic signatures. So if you're going to send these out for electronic signatures, put these in here. And then I'm just going to hit save. I don't worry about putting all their information in here because that should be in my OneSuite in my CRM, my contact relationship manager. I just put in here what I need to complete the transaction, which is their name and their email. Okay. You could add buyer 2, buyer 3, buyer 4. You can also add sellers in here. So it's a good idea to go to the MLS, click on that little APN inside of Berries that I showed you on Tuesday. Pull up the tax records and get the seller's names as well. And then put the seller's information, their names in here. It'll pull those into your transactions as well. The listing agent will love you more if that offer is complete with seller's names and their information and everything. I promise they will look at your offer more than they'll look at somebody else's offer that failed to put in all that information. It's all about relationships. So put in the seller's information. And then sometimes if it's hard to decipher based on that tax record what the seller's names are, it's okay to reach out to the other agent and ask them, hey, who do you want me to put down for the seller? Right? Totally okay. Any questions about putting in contacts, the parties? All right. Next is the documents. We were already there. Checklist is next. If you were using this for managing your transactions, you could create checklists that would pull up into your transaction and help you move through it. I don't use zip forms for that. eSign, that's where we could send things for signatures. So there's a couple of different ways to send things for signatures. Number one, I could be on the documents tab and I could be like, hey, I want the statewide buyer and seller advisory, the market conditions, and the residential purchase agreement. Now I can come up here to this tag and hit eSign. And that's going to open up my e-signatures window. Or I could come over here to the tab at the top to eSign. And it's going to open up my e-signatures window and I can click new. Either way works. No way is wrong. You can also do it from that new forms editor. Once you finish editing the forms, I'll show you that as well. Oops. Hold on. I just closed out of that one. Now it has to think really hard. All right, there we go. All right, so if I went back into I don't know why it keeps asking me to save the address, but if I go back into the forms editor, every time I go into this forms editor, it's going to say, hey, do you want to create a new signing session or are we opening up the old signing session? If you're opening up new documents, just so you know, and if you've already had a signature block in here before that you saved, you can open up the old one if you're messing with the same documents. If you're bringing in new documents, it's probably a good idea. If we've already made the offer, submitted the market conditions, all of that, then we probably want to move on and create a new file. But if you're editing the same documents, you can open the existing one. So here we got our statewide buyer and seller advisory. From here, I can just go up here and hit prepare signing from here as well. So there's 3 ways to get to that e-signature option. Anytime I say, hey, I want to create a new signature, It's going to say, do you want to use Authentisign or an alternate e-sign service? This would be like if you were using DocuSign or anything like that, you could set it to link those accounts. Authentisign, it's new, it's free. So free is good. We like free. So I just clicked on that. You're going to click the signing name. I like to include, like, so if this was going to be the offer, I would put offer on 123 Sample Street. That way I know what this signing packet entailed. And you can set up return folders if you have folders set up in your transaction. If you don't, just leave it blank and hit create. If I had more forms in editing mode on this, it would have pulled them all into this process. Here's your first, when you log into Authentisign, what you first have to do is add those participants. So I can add myself, add new, add from transaction, add from contacts. You've got lots of options here. So I'm going to add myself. And it's going to ask right here, what role? Now, keep in mind that this gets a little confusing. So this is a really good tidbit. It says listing agent and selling agent. And a lot of people get really confused when they see listing agent and selling agent. They're like, that's the same thing. No, the listing agent is the one that has the listing, right? They listed the property, and the selling agent is the one that's going to have the buyer that's going to buy it. They're selling that property, right? They're the ones. So it's a little confusing. Most of our zip forms have moved away from selling agent, but Authentisign is living in the past. So just know that if you're looking for a buyer's agent, it's listed as the selling agent or the selling broker. Okay, so we're going to identify that. Signer type is remote. You can assign them a PIN if you want to, but you don't have to. And then I'm just going to hit save. Okay, you can add additional participants. So if I want to add from transaction, now it's going to pull up my buyers from that transaction. Also pulls up the listing agent. I never put the listing agent into my signing files, just for the record. I may CC them if I want it to go right to them, but I'm not even sure you can do that on Authentisign. So I would select buyer one, type is remote. It's already going to assign it to that buyer one position, and then we're going to hit select. If you added people and they did not have titles here, then we would go into map signers, which would allow us, it would list out who they were and their name. So like selling agents, Amy, buyer one is buyer one, because that's what I named them, right? If I had sellers in there, so you can do it that way by mapping those signature blocks out, and then you just hit assign signature blocks. Okay, now it's going to look for those spots in the forms and assign those signatures. So if we scroll to the end of this form, it's going to already have the buyer's signature and my signature set up and ready to go, along with the dates. Okay, even if I know that it's going to assign these fields every single time I scroll through my entire signing package without fail every single time and make sure the signature blocks are where they belong and that it didn't miss any. I love technology, but I don't trust it. Okay. In addition to that, if it missed one, we can come over here to, we're going to close out of signers. I think it's going to be in tools. Here is where you can add fields to your forms. So you'll see there's a drop down. I can select fields. So if I wanted to assign things to myself, I'm always yellow. I can add signature blocks. I just click and drag.
How'd you get there?
I just went to tools right here on the right-hand side of the page.
Got it.
Okay. If I need to add a checkbox, right? Maybe we're signing an offer that we're making a counter offer on. So we want to make sure we check that counter offer box. I can send it through here and I can check the box for the counter offer being included. Okay. So there's lots of options. Signer fields, if it required a name, we could plug in the name here by hitting the full name. We could add the date with the auto date, auto time, email addresses. You can add text boxes, lines, highlights. So there's all sorts of options that you can do inside of here that allow you full functionality. Okay, if I wanted to toggle to buyer one, I just come down here to buyer one, and now I'm doing signature boxes for buyer one. Okay, if I forgot to change signers and I accidentally made these both, maybe I was still here on me and I was like, cool, I'm done. Now I'm assigning buyer signatures, and I throw it on there. I go, oh my goodness, that was supposed to be the buyer. All I have to do is re-click on that signature box, come over here to the drop down, select buyer one, and now I've changed its ownership to buyer one instead of myself. So you don't have to delete it and re-drag it over. We can just change the ownership. Okay, any questions about navigating through those signatures?
Where's this been all my life?
It's new. It's new. AuthentiSign hasn't been out very long. I think it came out about the same time. Well, they always had the other one, and DocuSign was able to do this as well. But the other zip form signature app wasn't as intuitive and easy to use as this one is. AuthentiSign is definitely easier to use and it's free. It's free.
You said these are
Okay.
one of the three, right? DocuSign, AuthentiSign, and the
Yeah, and Digital Ink, I think, is the third one.
okay. Because when I
Yeah, so
was
this
trying
is-
to signature blocks before using one of the other ones, like, and I would send it out, it would be blank, and my clients would be like, "Where do I sign?" Like it wouldn't allow them to.
Yeah, so this one should
Okay.
highlight. Now, keep in mind too, that if buyer one logs in to sign, it's not gonna show them my signature blocks. It's just gonna show them their stuff. So if you've got buyer one and buyer two, and they're like, it's only asking me to sign, that's because buyer two has to log in on their own to see their signature blocks.
So if we're paying for DocuSign, we can cancel that now? And
If
use
you were
this?
paying for DocuSign, you could cancel it and use this one. You might want to play around with this one first and mess with it and make sure it seems like the functionality is there for you, but it's pretty easy to use. Okay, once we are done here, we're just going to hit the little next button. Once we've made sure all the signature blocks are where they belong, all the dates, the names, everything's where it goes, we're just going to hit the next button. Okay, this allows you to set up, oh, here, hold on just a second. Let me see, go back to signers. This is really important right here on signers. Sorry, I backtracked a little bit. So I went back to signers. I hit the little signers button. It's got this little toggle switch at the top that says set signing order. If all of the parties have separate emails, I would not set the signing order. I would leave it off just like it is right now, which means that I could log in at the same time buyer one logs in, and we can all sign at the same time. It allows buyer one and buyer two to log in at the same time, review the documents, and sign them at the same time, right? They don't have to wait for one person to log in before they can see those documents. The only time I set a signing order is if my buyers are using the same email address, because it gets a little bit confusing if they're using the same email address. If we set a signing order, then buyer one signs, then once buyer one is done, then they get another email for buyer two to sign. So that's when I would toggle this on here, and you can rearrange the order. Okay, and it's going to send it to whoever the order is here on this list. So if I had the signing order on, it's going to send it to me first. Once I've signed and completed and hit finish, then it's going to send buyer one an alert. Okay, so most of the time I leave that off. Okay, once you make sure you're happy there, now we're going to hit next. Here it gives your expiration and reminders. So this says it expires in a month. The signing packet expires in a month, and you can change that just by clicking on the little calendar here. We could be like, well, it's an offer. Like if they haven't signed it by the 1st, we're out of luck, right? And then you can also set reminders. So if I want a reminder to go out to them every day to sign this document, where you find people delay is like listing agreements and buyer rep agreements. If you didn't have them sign in person and your listing's not going on the market right away, or they're not shopping for properties tomorrow, sometimes they delay on those. So we may want a reminder to go out. So maybe every day at 9 a.m., they get a reminder that they have a packet there to sign in their email. They'll get a little reminder email. And you can also customize those invites by hitting the little customize button as well. Here, it's gonna say the subject, you can hit what you want in the body, and then you can set up a different one for each person, right? It allows you to customize it for each person. And then if you don't customize it, it's just gonna go with the default, just so you know, it still will send them a message. It's just gonna go with the default. Once you're done and you're happy, we hit send.
Is it
Now
gonna
the application has
automatically,
been sent. What?
Amy, is it gonna automatically attach our email signature that we put in that other box?
That is a fabulous
settings.
question. Let's look.
Cause I was thinking this is really cool, like it's like you're bugging them without technically bugging them as a reminder, but like Anastasia asked, like if it has our name down here, then it will.
Yeah, so
We're bugging them.
that's what the email looks like when they receive it. If you just leave it to the default, it's hard to see that. It just says, hello, Amy Petard, is inviting you to participate as a signing partner in an Authentisign e-signature document signing, signing name. Just so you know, when you put that file name in there, it puts it over into the email. So it says signing name is offer on 123 Sample Street. So it's a good idea to title those. You can click the box to start signing, and then it says the invitation was sent to you by, and then has your information. You can probably edit that in the inside Authentisign. There was some options, so you could probably edit that in there if you want to change up that signature. But it does say it's Amy Petard with Realty One Group, has my phone number and email in there. I usually, if I'm going to send something out for signatures, I usually either text or call my clients to let them know that I've sent them that document for signatures so they know to look for it. Okay. Now, if you want to find that e-signature packet, maybe you realized, oh my gosh, there's an error, or I forgot a signature, or I forgot a whole document. Okay. It's a little bit tricky to cancel, but you can do it. So here across the gray toolbar, we come over here to that e-sign. That's going to pull up any packets that we've sent out for signatures. It's going to tell us whether they are sent or complete or in draft format. If something is complete or in draft, you can delete it. If something is sent, you cannot delete it. Okay, and you're gonna be like, Amy, that doesn't help me. If I forgot a document, I need to be in there to edit it or delete it and send a new one. It's all right, we've got it. If we click on the little drop down right here, we hit reset. Okay, this is how you delete something that's been sent that you didn't want to send. We hit reset. Once you hit reset, you say yes. It's going to open up the file. Okay, here's where you could add signatures, take signatures away, add another person, do whatever you needed to do if you just needed to make a little tweak. You could go into documents as well. We could add a document from here, from either the transaction or upload import. Okay, and you could do that when we set it up as well. So if you're like, man, I just forgot a document, we're just going to click add that document into it. No big deal. That Solano County disclosures that I put in here, that was a PDF form, I could add that one as well. Or if I hadn't uploaded it yet, I could come over here to upload import, and I could drag or drop here documents to add, right? I just clicked on it. It pops up my thing. I can plug things into there to add from my computer as well. Okay, so you can add or subtract. It's double checking. We're going to assign, because we added a new document, we're going to assign those signature blocks. Okay, now that market conditions advisory is going to have those signature blocks added in. We just got to wait for it all to load. It's got those buyer signatures added onto it already. Maciel has a question.
So how did it go straight to that Authentisign, like to add signatures?
So I was in the e-signature tab on the gray toolbar inside the transaction, and I wanted to change that signature. So I had the little file of the signatures that I just started and hit sent on, and I hit reset. And by hitting reset, it opened it up for me to edit that file.
Okay, gotcha. Thank
Okay.
you.
Just for kicks, I'm going to click. Oh, here's how you see change signature, signing details, expiration reminders, position. Okay, so you've got some options there. That doesn't help you with signatures though. All right, so if I wanted to just correct it and send it, I'm just going to hit those corrections, add those documents, hit next. It'll walk me through that send process again, and then I'm going to resend it out. Okay. I wanted to delete the file, don't hit next. It's going to open up this file once you hit reset. We're just going to hit back. It's going to take us back to that tab with the e-signatures. Maybe if we wait patiently. It's really hard for me waiting patiently. Okay, it took me back to the documents, but if I go back to now click e-sign again on the gray toolbar, back to where I started. See, now instead of saying sent, this one says draft. Because I didn't hit send. I went in and hit reset. It opened it up. I hit back, and now it saves it as a draft. And now what I can do is I can delete it. Okay, once you delete it, it'll take it away from your buyers or your sellers or whoever you sent it to. Okay, so you have to hit reset and then back and then delete. Does that make sense how we delete a file? Adriana and I had a question about this the other day, so I had to do some research to figure out how to delete something, because once it's in sent mode, you can't delete it. Okay. If I want to go back in there and now set it up for signatures again and actually send it out, I can just go up here to edit signing, which is going to open up that Authentisign again. And then from here, I can just hit next and send it back out. Okay, are we all tracking? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So when you initially went to e-sign, that's where you're able to pick which of the signature like DocuSign or Authentisign to use.
Yeah, so if I hold on, I'll show you here in a second. So I just resent it out so you guys can see what that looks like again. We're gonna go e-sign. So here it says sent. So if I were gonna just go to create a new packet, I'm gonna hit the signing name. This is where you put in that, right? So it'd be like 1, 2, 3 sample street offer revised, and then hit create. Because I have Authentisign selected in my profile as my default signing service, it's always going to take me here from that screen. The only time it asks me if you've got it set up as your default is, hold on, when you're inside the form editor and you go to e-sign from the form editor, then it asks me whether I want Authentisign or DocuSign, basically. Okay, so if I am inside the documents and I go to the form editor, and then from here, click the prepare signing button. Here it gives me the option of Authentisign versus an alternate sign service. But because I have it defaulted in my zip form settings, if I'm going straight from that zip forms, it'll just automatically take me to Authentisign.
Thank you.
Yep. Now, Ed had a comment about inside of zip forms, tagging forms can be very time intensive, especially if we make changes. Ed, can you elaborate on that? Are you available to elaborate? I know your picture's gone, so you might not be there. Nope. All right, we'll ask him later what he meant by that. Inside of e-sign, I sent that packet back out so that I could show you. If we come back out here, now I've got that one that I just started. It's saved as a draft, and I've got the one that I sent out. So the draft one, I can come in here and hit delete, and it's adios. Okay, this one that's sent, if I want more details on it, I can click here and I can click signing details. And if, oh good, Ed's back. And if I go signing details, now it'll say who has authenticated or who has logged in and looked at it and who has finished signing. Okay, so from here, it shows me that information. I can also edit the email. Let's say that I put in the email incorrectly. This allows me to fix that email right here. And then if I want to save my changes, I hit the save button. If I don't want to save, I hit the little X. Okay, so from signing details allows you to see, and I'll ask you here in a minute, it allows you to see who has logged in and who has signed. It'll also allow you to resend invitations, and you can do that from the main screen as well. So if you want to resend that invite, maybe they said they didn't get it, we can fix the email, resend it, or just hit the resend button. That would just resend them a notification that they have something to sign. From here, you can also add a CC. So if you want somebody like your transaction coordinator, the other agent, maybe you've got a co-agent on the file, maybe you've got a buyer that's not actually on the contract. You know, oftentimes, sometimes with our VA buyers, the husband and wife aren't both on the contract. You can set it up so that you can CC the spouse that's not on the contract, so they get a copy of these forms as well and can review it with the buyer. Makes it super handy and nice. We would just hit the add CC or add CC from contacts if they were saved in your contacts. It allows you to send it to somebody that doesn't have to sign. They're just going to get a copy. Okay. This is where you can see the forms. The original and signed forms are going to be in here, and then the history of what's happened inside of this transaction. Okay, and that was, again, just we click the little arrow. We can either resend invitations from here. We can reset, which allows us to delete it or make changes. We can duplicate it, or we can go signing details. Okay, any questions about navigating through that? All right, Ed, my question to you was, you said something about tagging forms, which I'm not familiar with.
So if we utilize DocuSign, oftentimes we will have to tag all the initials and or signatures, right? And so especially when we're doing disclosures up front and we have 98 pages of, to tag it, and then there's one change in there and it's already a signing package and or folder, then that creates kind of a nightmare because you have to retag it, or at least that's how I do it. And maybe I don't know the other way, but it's in time intensive.
Yes. You can set up in DocuSign specifically. I know you can set up form templates. Yes. So like you can set up a template for SPQ or TDS, and then you go and select that template and it automatically applies the signature blocks where the signature blocks are supposed to go. I haven't seen that option yet, or any option for that inside of Authentisign, but I haven't played with it very much either, but I don't see that right off the bat anywhere to set up those type of templates.
And I'm 65% sure that in DocuSign through this now it's tagging.
It's tagging.
But I'm not 100%. I think I just did it a couple weeks ago, and I thought it was signed.
I'll have to, I have a login for DocuSign. I just don't know what it is, so I'll have to play with it, because that might be worth the $20 a month or whatever it is. I think it's $240 a year for DocuSign if it'll auto-populate some of those signatures for some of those other forms. Although if you have a transaction coordinator, it's probably not worth it for you. Just let your transaction coordinator do it.
I think for me it was, so you get like an REO listing that wants everything up front.
Up front.
Submitted with the offer. So all my disclosures are coming up front of this thing. And you want the strong, especially in the seller's market, trying to get everything up front to get your offer accepted. And there's one change to that offer, and all of a sudden you have to retag.
You have to redo the whole thing. Yep. All right.
Amy, this is fantastic.
Good. So we went through, I showed you how to set up a new file. Just so everybody knows too, like Petard purchase, if we made an offer on this property and it did not get accepted and we continue looking, we go to make another offer, I don't create a new file. I just open up the same file, do that MLS connect. So once you're inside the file, I can just come in here and hit MLS connect, and I can pull new listing data into that file. And I just reuse that same file until we get an accepted offer. Once you sign something in the file, those signature docs are always there. So it doesn't override what's already been done and signed. It just overrides the blanket document so you can submit it. You don't have 20 files for the same person. So like here is a file that I have where there is a referral agreement signed. So it created a folder, and now this is the signed referral agreement is in here. That will always be in here, even if I go in and change the address and change the listing agent. The signed documents are still in there. So I still have copies and records of all of those. It just allows me not to have 20 files for the same buyer, because that can get a little cumbersome. So we do that. And the reason that's important is that we need to keep copies of all those offers, even if they're not accepted. We need a history of everything that buyer has submitted offers on. Or, you know, as a listing agent, you need to keep the copies of the rejected offers as well for compliance purposes. So that's why it's important that those signed documents, we have copies of them. Or if the agent sends it back to you rejected, then you have that copy as well. But agents are lazy and they often don't send you back rejected offers. So there's that. So we have setting up a purchase for a listing. I showed you how to set up templates. Showed you how to put in, use Authentisign, how to put new documents in, how to pull documents from the outside. Does anybody have any additional questions on navigating the beast known as zip forms?
Can we go over the new buyer representation and broker compensation agreement, or do we have time?
We do not have time tonight. It's 5 o'clock, but I am thinking that maybe I'm gonna try to get that on the calendar unless Ed's got a date for it already.
Why don't we set a date right now? Because I'm playing with that. I've been talking about it. What if we did, I don't want to interfere with your classes, but what if we did a
Tuesday at 4.
Tuesday at 4? I can do Tuesday at 4. Would that be okay with you, Amy?
Yes, because that's when I was thinking about doing it anyway. So you want to do next Tuesday at 4?
Sure.
All right. Do you want to teach it or you want me to?
It's either or. I mean, you're doing fantastic, but I have no problem doing it as well.
I'm happy to do it.
Okay, perfect.
Happy to do it. All right. So next Tuesday at 4 o'clock, it'll be the same link that we use for all of our Rev Up trainings and this Thursday night training. We'll do that on Tuesday at 4 o'clock. We'll do the buyer agreement.
So this Zoom link was just for this session?
Nope. This Zoom link is the same one that we use for the Rev Up, for all the Rev Up classes in this class. So we'll keep that same link on Tuesday.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Perfect. Abby would like you to log your attendance. She has an attendance form for you in the chat box. So if you open up your chat box, you can log your attendance. We had a good showing this evening. I appreciate everyone showing up for zip forms. Any last questions on zip forms or anything else before we close out for the evening?
No, thank you, Amy. Sorry I showed up late.
Totally
I
okay.
have one.
Yeah.
I have one. You said that we have to keep like even the past offers that we had submitted that we ended up not like getting an accepted offer. Like those don't those stay on the zip form like on there? And
They do.
eventually they just so we just need to keep them there, and then because then they eventually get deleted, don't they? On their own?
Yeah, so I'm not sure, maybe if Ed's still on, he may have vanished. If Ed knows for sure, but I'm not sure if we're required to upload those into SkySlope or not. So if you have a transaction coordinator, it's always a good idea to forward those over to your transaction coordinator so they have a copy of those rejected offers, because then they can at least email them to the SkySlope file so they're in the records. Ed, is there a place in SkySlope where those rejected offers or unaccepted offers on a buyer transaction get uploaded?
Honestly, you can send them to the TC team, but we have not collected those.
Okay.
If we got called on the carpet and got sued, that's something that we would have to scramble. So I think that is worthy of another conversation. I just don't have, well, we don't have a working, if you will.
Okay.
Honest answer.
Honestly, that's why I figured that was probably the answer. That seems to be everybody's answer. So yeah, so ZipForm saves copies of those offers, so that's super handy. And it would be in your best interest for compliance purposes and just legality that if you use a transaction coordinator or not, once you get that SkySlope file opened, just forward them to that SkySlope email. So there's a record of those rejected offers inside a SkySlope someplace so that we could always go back and find them. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? All right. Well, this was super fun. Anastasia, do you have a question?
No, I'm trying to, I clicked on the Zoom link that I had for earlier or for yesterday, and it brought me to that one, but you said it was the wrong one, so I'm trying to fix it.
The one that we meet for earlier is different than the Rev Up trainings.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. So
the Rev Up in the morning is going to be the same as the Rev Up right now,
yes.
right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay.
Fabulous. Thank you,
My little
everyone.
airhead's going back to sleep.
All right. We'll be back on Tuesday and Wednesday with Rev Up.
Hi, guys. Thank you.
Can't wait.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you.
Thank you.